Chairman Blumenthal, Ranking Member Cruz, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Holly Sullivan, and I humbly thank you for this opportunity to speak here today. It is truly an honor. I also want to thank the other witnesses for their views and extend my most sincere sympathies to Ms. Mason. I serve on the advisory board of the DC Project, a national organization of women committed to protecting the Second Amendment through education, not legislation. I am also extremely proud to be the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League, a 43,000-member nonpartisan organization committed to upholding the rights of all citizens to keep and bear arms. I also serve as a selectman in my hometown of Southbury, Connecticut. However, above all, I am a single mother to an incredible 8-year-old daughter. Southbury is located directly between Newtown and Oxford, the home of Laurie Jackson, and my community is no stranger to tragedy. There are altering days in life when you realize that nothing will ever be the same. December 14th, 2012 was one of those days. I, like many of my neighbors, gathered that evening in Sandy Hook to leave stuffed animals and candles for 26 lives lost. I also vividly recall the day of the inexcusable killing of Laurie Jackson. I was a young mother of a 7-month-old baby girl. I remember the sirens and the wave of concern among locals that there was a 6-hour manhunt underway, and it took me right back to 2012. However, my path is a little different from some of the women you might expect to hear from on a bill like this. I was raised with an education in gun safety and firearm awareness that I never fully appreciated the importance of until I had something greater than myself to defend, my own child. It's not easy going against the grain of a more popular narrative. I have been shunned from moms groups and received my share of angry anonymous letters in the mail. However, I cannot sit quietly knowing there is critical information to be shared. There is a balance to be achieved where victims of violent crime can find peace and security while law-abiding gun owners are not unduly stripped of their means of defense and due process rights. However, the bill before you today is not the solution. On behalf of more than 43,000 people, I'm here to testify to you today one absolute truth. Nothing in S-2169 would have prevented the murder of Laurie Jackson. Laurie's estranged husband purchased a handgun in Virginia, transported it back to Connecticut, which is already prohibited by federal law. He had complete disregard for the law, and I believe he was determined to commit the act regardless. I know with absolute confidence that this bill will not result in the desired outcome, and I testify before you today as we have lived under this very law in my home state for the past 5 years. The bill does not, in any way, address the circumstances of the horrific killing of Laurie Jackson. It is critical that women struggling in domestic situations understand where this bill falls short on protecting them. Like much well-meaning legislation, this law, compounded with other onerous ones, has created unintended consequences in Connecticut. We now have 3 vehicles by which an individual can seek remedy in a violent situation. He or she can simply call the police to report a concern, they can file a risk warrant, or they can petition for an ex parte restraining order. It is confusing, complicated, and incredibly expensive. Gun owners are largely excluded from the discussion on how to remedy an issue that we are actually the subject matter experts on. 2/3 of all gun-related deaths are suicide, yet in Connecticut, the very people who have access to firearms generally have no seat at the table to discuss policy that impacts them directly. Recent legislation leaves the very community of individuals with access to firearms uncomfortable seeking help for fear of erroneous red flag complaints with no meaningful penalty for perjury. Our reality is that individuals who have not been charged with any crime are subject to confiscation without being afforded due process. Further, groups like Hold My Guns doing outstanding life-saving work cannot be effective in our state due to onerous transfer laws. Connecticut laws may be some of the strictest in the country, but they are far from a gold standard we should aspire to as a nation. Connecticut focuses so much on doing something every year that the legislature finds a solution in need of a problem as often as a problem in need of a solution. Last year, Connecticut saw a surge of 40,000 new gun owners, and women are undeniably the fastest growing demographic of gun owners, and Connecticut is no exception. In fact, African American women in Connecticut had the greatest increase in new permit issuance compared to any other demographic. I am not here to tell you that every woman needs to carry a gun. I am here to tell you that no woman should be denied her ability to defend her life. The means by which she is comfortable doing so is her personal choice. I am also here to speak on behalf of women who are alive today because they exercise their right to defend themselves with a firearm but are missing in this discussion. As survivors of their own tragic encounters, they live, breathe, and walk among us because they were armed. There are no community gatherings to celebrate their survival or even offers of thoughts and prayers. In fact, they are often vilified for being a gun owner in the first place. They are forgotten because they survived. And in conclusion, I ask you to reconsider the bill before you. I ask you to be honest with those praying for relief from abuse in regards to what this bill can and cannot do. And above all, I ask you not to create a national policy where we sacrifice the very individual freedoms we hold dear to be compromised. I ask for an effort to hold violent criminals accountable, to offer meaningful remedies for victims, and to never forget that above all else, we have a right to exist granted to us by our Creator, not our government. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Sullivan. I just want to assure you we're going to make every effort to hold violent criminals accountable. Most of my career was involved in law enforcement. I am in favor of law-abiding citizens, including, or maybe most especially, women, having those rights enforced. Second Amendment is the law of the land. And we're not having a hearing on defunding the police because I'm against defunding the police. I am in favor of providing more resources that would provide for both public safety and justice. We're not going to have a hearing on
Women are one of the fastest growing demographics of new gun owners in America and in your home state of Connecticut. Can you tell this committee why you believe that's the case and what are the potential benefits of that development?
Yeah, absolutely. In Connecticut, it is truly incredible to see the number of women who have a new mindset to say that they will not be a victim. And the reality is our state feels more unsafe than I've ever known it to be. I've had individuals come up my driveway that don't belong there, and we are truly seeing a new state of things in Connecticut where it is very unsafe, and women are flocking to the range. Classes are filling up where they are understanding as empowered feminist women that they have the ability to defend themselves. And one of the things that's often overlooked is if there is a larger offender, there are very few things that a woman can use to truly defend herself the way she can with a firearm, a knife, a bat. None of those things really give her the ability to have equal force. And it's very important that we're clear that this is about defensive use. This is not offensive use. And women are understanding and realizing that they have the ability to protect their own lives with this tool.
Thank you. That was very powerful.
One of the things that stands out the most.
Could you speak directly into the mic?
My apologies.
Thank you.
I think it's important to acknowledge that the only individuals who follow the law are people who are fearful of the repercussions and those who actually care about if they are violating the law. And when we talk about these things and we talk about that they cannot possess firearms, well, they may not possess firearms, but they sure could, because they don't honor or respect the law or the legislation. And I think that is a distinguishing factor that needs to be made between somebody who may not have a firearm, but if they're a criminal and they're intent on doing harm, they
Thank
sure
you.
can. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Senator Cruz.
And joining us today. And Ms. Sullivan, ask you to respond to the same question, please. I know you may have a different view.
Yeah, I do have a different view, and I would agree with that officer that the restraining order is only worth the piece of paper that it's written on, and there are a lot of women that feel that way, and I think and we know this, is that when women get their permits and lawfully carry for the first time, they are citing defensive and home defense and personal defense as their reason for doing so. So I think that it's important to recognize that there are only so many officers present, right? They can't stand at our doors and they can't be everywhere that we are. So for many American women and women in my state, they feel that it is their own responsibility.
So, Ms. Sullivan, just for clarity, and the officer was warning Ms. Paulson in this case that the TRO did not protect her because the law did not forbid her husband, who posed a direct threat to her life and health, from purchasing a firearm. Is it your position that a spouse or domestic partner or intimate partner who's had a TRO issued against them by a judge because of the violent threat that they pose to their partner's life or health should nevertheless be permitted by law legally to purchase a firearm? Is that your position?
Well, I think when we're talking about the restraining order itself, I think it's important to clarify that that is just a document. When it comes to this law and my position on this law, I think it is important to recognize that temporary restraining orders can and have been used to disarm women as well.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Sullivan, but I'm already over time, and I want to make sure that we have you on the record clearly on this issue. And it's a yes or no question. Is it your position that a spouse or a domestic partner or an intimate partner against whom a temporary restraining order has been issued by a judge because of the threat they pose to the life or health or safety of their partner should nevertheless be permitted by law legally to purchase a firearm? It's a yes or no question.
Until they've had a hearing and it's been determined they should be able to lawfully purchase a firearm.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you.